Can a Riverside rental investor enter their own rental home? Yes, but doing it wrong could cost them $2,000 per violation. Here's how to make sure that doesn't happen to you. Hi, I'm Brian Bean, founder of Dream Big Property Management here in Riverside, California. Today we're talking about how to enter your rental property legally and the 3 scenarios where you could be breaking the law without even knowing it. So if you own a property in Riverside, Corona, Moreno Valley, or elsewhere in the Inland Empire, it seems fair that you should have the right to check on your investment, right? Well, here's the reality. The moment you rent out that home, your residents have what's called exclusive possession of that property. It may be your property, but it's their home, and that gives them the legal right to exclude you from entering. Look, that's not a bad thing when you think about it. I know it's messy, but hear me out. We all just need to know the rules and play in bounds. You wouldn't like it if someone came barging into your home without notice either. More importantly, California doesn't mess around with privacy rights. If you violate laws on tenant privacy and right to quiet enjoyment, you're looking at $2,000 per pop. So, in the next few minutes, I'm going to cover first the 24-hour rule and when it applies. Second, the 3 emergency exceptions where the restrictions ease up. Third, the costly mistakes that get Inland Empire landlords in trouble. And lastly, I'll give you the exact notice template we use for our Dream Big property management clients. California Civil Code Section 1954 is crystal clear about this. There are only 4 reasons you can enter your rental property. Number 1, to make necessary repairs or inspect. 2, to show the property to prospective tenants or buyers. 3, when the tenant has abandoned the property. And number 4, emergency situations such as fires or burst pipes. For the first 3, you must give at least a 24-hour written notice. And yes, I acknowledge that number 3 is when the tenant has abandoned the property. Do not make any assumptions about whether a home is vacant. Unless there's water pouring out the door or flames shooting through the roof, make sure you're knocking with a 24-hour written notice in hand. That notice must include the date, approximate time, and purpose of the entry. And you can only enter during normal business hours, typically 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. If you need to get in tomorrow, you can hand deliver that notice or post it in a conspicuous place. If you want to mail the notice, you must give 6 days advance notice instead of the 24 hours. So what about number 4, emergencies? Well, in the event of a true emergency, you can enter a property without notice to deal with that issue. But I mean true emergencies. Things like burst water pipes, gas leaks, fires, electrical hazards, things that threaten life or property. Smelling something suspicious? Not an emergency. Welfare check because a resident hasn't paid the rent? Not an emergency. Hearing strange noises? Not an emergency. When you do have a real emergency, you still have to knock and announce yourself. Also, make sure that you document everything and afterward follow up with a written notice explaining why you went in and what happened. The most common violations we see involve repairs. One of our clients was recently having significant work done on a property. The contractor showed up twice to do work without requesting access to us in time for us to give that 24-hour notice. Once, the resident was gracious enough to allow the access. The next time, not so much. We had to have a conversation with that contractor about the proper process and what was acceptable behavior by them. Because Civil Code 1954, which governs the right to enter a rental, specifically includes workers or contractors. If you're sending someone to make repairs at a home, you must provide written notice, even for the small stuff, even if the work is going to be done outside the home. The only exception is that your residents can waive that 24-hour notice requirement. They can agree orally to let you send a worker at a specific date and time. Just don't expect them to agree to an unannounced visit. And certainly, if a resident says no, you can't force your way into that home. That will get you in trouble. Here's some other mistakes that can get a rental owner in hot water. Sending a handyman over for a real quick, without notice, without tenant consent. Using master keys for quick checks. Entering when you smell something suspicious. Or going in when the tenant's at work because it's convenient. Don't do any of that stuff. Here's what happens if you do. Under California law, residents can sue you for up to $2,000 per violation. And they can also take you to small claims court for trespassing and invasion of privacy, which can tack on another 5 figures. Multiple illegal entries could be considered harassment. Think criminal and civil judgments. And improper entry could even subject you to arrest for criminal trespass. Are we on the same page now? This stuff's important. How do you stay compliant while still protecting your investment? First, always use a written notice unless it's a true emergency. 2, be specific about the purpose. Don't just say inspection. Say inspect kitchen plumbing for reported leak. Third, give more than 24 hours notice when possible. That builds goodwill with your resident. And remember, it's your property, but it's their home. Fourth, keep copies of all notices. Document when and how they were delivered. Fifth, for routine maintenance, try to schedule during times that work for your resident. Don't just dictate the time and date. And sixth, if a resident refuses reasonable entry request, don't just show up anyway. Work with them to find alternative dates or get legal help if they're being completely unreasonable. So that's a summary of the rules to enter a rental home in California. And yes, the rules might seem complicated, maybe even overreaching, but it's the law. And that law has teeth, so make sure you don't suffer a bite. Also, we're in California, the land of sunny days and contingent attorney pay. This is just one of hundreds of legal requirements that Inland Empire rental property owners must navigate. And it's only getting more complicated. 56 new housing laws took effect in 2024 in California. Rental properties are the surefire way for you to create wealth for you and your family. Make sure you and your portfolio are protected by being in compliance with all local, state, and federal laws. If you have questions about anything you've heard here today, call me directly at 951-314-5402. I'm happy to share. You can also find valuable information on our website, dreambigpm.com. Need a copy of a form to give legal notice of entry to your rental property? We've included a link in the description to a sample form provided by one of the local housing agencies. Feel free to download and use it. And as always, if you found the information you heard here today useful, please do us a favor, like and subscribe below so that we can help others just like you. Remember, don't be accidental about your future. Be intentional. To your success.